So my understanding is your first role here wound up being a film called The World's Greatest Lover with Gene Wilder. Um, what do you remember about the chain of events that led to your casting in that film?
Uh, First, I remember that first film that I saw in a movie theater in Los Angeles, when I moved from Phoenix to Los Angeles, was Everything You Need to Know About Sex and Afraid to Ask. Where, if you remember this film, it was Woody Allen's picture, where Gene Wilder played this guy who was in love with a sheep. And he was so wonderful, and it was so amazingly funny. With my limited English, I fell in love with this actor. And then I couldn't even dream of, like, less than a month later, I would be sitting with Gene in the same room, who was interviewing me for a part in this movie. And the only words I understood when he was talking to me was Stanislavski. He was a big fan of Stanislavski and the Met School of Acting, and like 95% of what he was saying I didn't understand, but I couldn't show it. I had to pretend that
You sit there and nod a lot.
I need to get this part. What happened, I didn't get the part that they auditioned me for, but they gave me a smaller part, and it was actually, I played an actor with bad breath. My partners in the scene was then unknown Danny DeVito and Peter Ustinov's daughter, Pavla. I don't know if you remember the film. It was they were looking for the new Rudolph Valentino, and I was one of the actors who was trying to become. I was auditioning for the part. I rode on a horse with a chic outfit, and everybody who came close to me were fainting because of my breath. So that was my first experience, and I was very fortunate. But I would like to mention somebody that I lost 2 months ago. A friend, a person who became a very close friend till the last days. His name was Paul Maslansky. Not Paul Mazursky. I worked with both. Paul Maslansky is famous with his Police Academy series. He created it and was producing all of them, all of the shows. And Paul was the one who introduced me to then casting director Michael Fenton, who brought me to meet Gene Wilder. That's how it all started.
It's interesting how those little butterfly effects work, where if one little thing doesn't happen, your life goes a completely different path, right?
Right. That was just I was very lucky to meet Paul, and I met a lot of people from the industry who were nice and saying, yes, we would love to help you. Nobody, don't call us, we'll call you. Paul was the only one who actually did something. And as I said, we stayed friends for almost 50 years.
So you remained a working actor in the intervening years after that, but I think it's kind of fair to say that your career then really kind of took off around 1984 when you burst onto the scene in Moscow on the Hudson with Robin Williams. How did you first hear about the role, and how familiar were you with Robin at the time?
I knew him as an actor. I never met him in my life. And then my agent, Marilyn White, she said that there's a film that's about Russians, and I'll try to make you an audition, but I don't think you'll get it. They're looking for star names, and that's not a very good idea to tell an actor to to put your hopes down before the audition. But nevertheless, I got the audition, and the part I played, if you remember, was clown. Anatoly. And in the script, in the first draft of the script, he wasn't a clown. He was a star acrobat. But I loved clowning. I knew a lot of clown trick. And when I met with Paul Maslansky, who was producing and wrote this, directed it, I suggested that when I read, just think of him not as an acrobat, but as a clown. He said, okay. And we started reading together, and I showed my couple of my sticks that I knew he was laughing. And all of a sudden I get a call back and to read with Robin Williams. That's when I first met him, and was charming from first second. I mean, he was such a warmth, such a friendliness. I mean, he didn't know if I'd get this part or not. I was a total stranger to him. But within an hour, we started playing parts and having fun. And I think a few days or maybe a week later, I got an offer.
So what was it like working on that film, having possibly experienced some similar things that were being expressed in the film? Or were there things or were things very different from what you experienced?
No, they were pretty close, because before writing the script, Paul went to Moscow and experienced it. And he was followed all the time, and the driver he was given told him that he was working for the government. I mean, and he felt very uncomfortable there. So when he wrote the script, it was all there, and he was very open to like suggestions. I wasn't the only Russian who was working on this picture. There were some other friends of his who helped him, and it was pretty authentic. Yeah, I mean, the Russian part.
So the same year, you're cast in 2010, which was the anticipated sequel, 2001. How did your casting for that come about, and how much did you know about 2001 previously?
No, I saw Kubrick's film and was a big fan of it. But the thing with 2010, I didn't even audition, because Peter Hines, who directed it, and he knew that he needed some Russians in his cast, and he called Paul Maslansky. And he said, "Who can you suggest?" And I was the first one on the list. So that's why he just, we had a meeting, we talked for about an hour, and then he just offered me the part.
I remember the sets they created for that film looking great. I mean, what was it like for you walking on to the set the first time and seeing everything? And I mean, did it like some sets just kind of make it a lot easier?
I don't know if it made it easier, but it was very interesting. It was so new, and it was the most important. It was an absolutely magnificent cast. Roy Scheider, Helen Mirren,
John Lithgow,
Bob Balaban. I mean, it's wonderful. Everybody. We became friends with John and with Roy, unfortunately, who left us too early. And so it was fantastic. The atmosphere was, you could, I mean, it's like the wildest dream comes true. It was very, very good experience.